Hello, hello. Welcome to Tea with the Druid, number 234. It's lovely to see everybody arriving. And greetings to you from Chicago and St. Louis and Orleans, France and Hawaii. It's great. Sweden, Portugal, Finland. Lovely to see you all. As you will see, I'm not alone today. I have a mystery guest, which I will tell you about in a minute. But first of all, I want to thank Kerry very much for having taken tea last week. That was wonderful. Thank you, Kerry, for doing that. And as we start to gather in our sacred grove together this evening, just tune in a little bit as you start to settle. And if you feel moved to, just type in how you're feeling. What sort of mood are you in? How are you feeling at this moment? It'll be lovely to hear how you're doing. And as you rushed off your feet, says Julia. Alive, says Victoria. Yes. And yeah, feeling off. I'm sorry to hear that, Lisa. Hopeful, scrambled and pulled in many directions. Expectant and quiet. I love the way we have a whole range of feelings here. Exasperated, tired, peaceful, end of day weariness, comfy and warm, a little sleepy, listless-ish. That's wonderful. Calm, warm magic, relaxed and content, stressed from work, curious. Fantastic. Well, there was something about feeling like the Nine of Pentacles in reverse. Fantastic. Apprehensive, calm, happy-ish, dislocated, invigorated by crisp, cold walks in the sunshine. At work, so peeved off. Monday night is a relaxation night. Happy to be here. Great. Well, so glad you're here. So glad you're here. So this afternoon, well, a couple of weeks ago, I was telling you about a wonderful book I was reading, Singing for Our Supper, by a certain mysterious Mr. W.R. Parsons. And who'd have thought it, but Mr. W.R. Parsons has walked in this evening on his way back from Canterbury on his pilgrimage. And when I talked about Will's book a couple of weeks ago, I was talking about pilgrimage and how central it is to the spiritual life. And we did a meditation, a little pilgrimage meditation.
Lovely.
And at that time, I talked about the way pilgrimage combines movement and rest, flow and stillness, you know.
Yeah, well
this lovely, like breathing in and breathing out and contracting the muscles and releasing them, this wonderful flow. How long have you been pilgrimaging for?
On this journey?
On this journey, yes.
The last 2 months I've been on the footpath.
So you've been walking for 2 months?
Yes, 2 months. Yeah.
Where did you leave from?
I set off from Winchester,
yeah,
which isn't really the start of this route. I'm walking a path called the Old Way to Canterbury,
yeah,
which comes from a 14th century road map.
Right.
And it's this mysterious faded red line.
Just a pause there. Isn't that lovely? Most people will be following a 21st century road map, Google Maps or something like that, and you're following a 14th century road map.
Well, I'm combining the old with the new.
Yeah.
But it's wonderful. It's our oldest road map.
Really?
Called the Goff map. It's in the Bodleian Library in Oxford.
Oh, wow.
2 pieces of goat skin sewn together.
Yeah.
And it has these thin red lines connecting various settlements that were around in the 14th century. And the only line that terminates at Canterbury is one that begins at Southampton.
Right.
And, Canterbury has nothing of trade or military. It's always been a spiritual centre.
Yeah.
Probably long before the cathedral was there, it was the same.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
And the reason is water. Water.
Yeah.
There's a holy well in the heart of Canterbury, which is a chalybeate well.
Chalybeate. So chalybeate, which is this funny word, Chalybbeat,
Yes.
isn't it?
With an E on the end of the thing.
With an E, with an E on the end.
Yes.
And it means that it's got iron in it.
Iron rich, yes.
And so it's red in that sense.
And you can taste it. You can taste that like blood in your mouth.
Sort of, metallic taste.
You've got it, yeah.
And for those of you who've been to Glastonbury, of course, Chalice Well has a chalybeate. I've always called it chalybeate. I don't know.
Let's go with that if you like.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the correct
Yeah.
pronunciation is. But that water comes into Chalice Well Garden from the wellhead. And then next to it, on the other side of the road, is the White Spring. So you've got the red and the white with all this sort of alchemical symbolism that contains. But so there's a chalybeate or chalybeate well in a spring in Canterbury.
Well, long before the cathedral was there, this well would have been known by the people of Kent and all the visitors, because it's the only iron-rich well in East Kent.
Right.
So there's another one in West Kent at Tunbridge Wells, which is rightly famous.
Which, of course, became a spa.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But this one in East Kent, it's until pilgrimage was in its heyday, up until the middle of the 16th century when it was banned by Henry VIII. Pilgrims in their hundreds of thousands made their way to Canterbury, the famous Canterbury Tales.
Yeah.
And what they were going for wasn't the shrine of this saint, because that was inaccessible. It was covered with gold and jewels. You weren't allowed anywhere near that.
Oh, really?
So what they were going for was the water.
Right.
And the water was known as the healing blood of Thomas Becket, and it's said to have run red at his murder in the cathedral. Although the commissioners sent by Henry VIII to get rid of it all said that the monks were faking it with red ochre.
That's what they said. That was the propaganda.
Yes, the counter propaganda. Yeah.
Right.
But it's this healing water, and the tradition of healing water, of course, is not limited to any one faith or any one period, but goes as far back as we do. Because having clean water to drink
is vital for life.
Before we forgot so quickly. As soon as we got taps, that the healing wells were the core infrastructure of life on Earth for humanity. And that's why all of our towns and cities and villages had their wells and their springs, and we built our cities around these springs. But like in Canterbury, the spring is lost, forgotten, and we've built a whole city on top of it, a great soaring temple. But the original reality of it, the blessing coming out of the ground, the dark, bloody water,
yes,
is almost forgotten.
Almost forgotten. I mean, it reminds me of Chartres in France, which has a well. You go down into the crypt, and there's a well down there, and they say it was a Druid well, and and then eventually the cathedral was built on top. How interesting. And you mentioned pilgrimage being banned. Just talk about that, because I think not many people know this detail.
Well, people say, why don't we have pilgrimage in England today? And I would say there are two Henrys why we don't. The first being King Henry VIII, who made, when he banned Catholicism and made it Church of England, it was pretty much Catholicism, but with a few bits removed. So he got rid of the monasteries, and he got rid of the shrines and the relics, and he got rid of pilgrimage.
Right. He made it illegal.
Yes, him and Thomas Cromwell made it on pain of death.
Okay.
And invented vagrancy laws so that anyone found wandering beyond their parish of birth would be whipped back.
Literally whipped back.
Literally, that was
whipped back to your parish.
First offence. Then you had your ear docked, and then you were executed.
Good God.
Yeah, so it was really the hard sort of capping of the wellspring of pilgrimage, blocking.
So that primal urge to go on a dedicated quest was actually made illegal.
Yes, that's right.
And punished by death in the end. That's extraordinary.
Yes, and you can imagine the trauma of that curtailing of that deepest freedom, because we were a nomadic species for 2 million years. We've had agriculture and settled houses for the last 12,000 only. So our deepest history, our roots are in movement.
So in a way, what you've been walking for the last 2 months, you've been acting out or tuning into this the sort of primal human, in your terms, primal human sort of nomadic urge, as it were. Would you say?
I mean,
Is that
that's a big claim.
Yeah.
I perhaps wouldn't say that. I'm glad you said it.
But I mean, have you felt during these 2 months? It's an extraordinary thing to do, particularly. I mean, for those of you who aren't in the UK, I mean, the weather's not great. It's chilly, and it's been fairly lovely actually until about 4 weeks ago.
Yes,
it's been pretty nice actually.
Yeah.
But how's it been? Have you ever doubted yourself? Because you're sleeping rough, aren't you? Under the star. I mean, not always. Like
a mixture of places. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, people invite you in, but
Yeah.
how often are you of those 2 months? Much of that have you spent sleeping outside?
Only about a quarter of it's actually been outside.
Oh, really? Okay.
I would say a solid half has been in churches and monasteries and these established houses that are all sit empty every night. And half of those with permission.
Yeah.
And half of them I just claim sanctuary.
Right. So, do you go into the church or do you just sleep in the porch?
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what they're for.
Yeah.
For one of the purposes.
Yes.
And they sit empty every night, and people are stealing the lead from the roofs, and there's this sense of perceived irrelevance to these buildings, which are the community libraries of our landscape. It's where the people, when they're born, have been greeted, when they're married, they've been witnessed, and when they die, people say farewell in these great temples. And I think we need to repurpose them, for a variety of approaches. They can't just be monopolized by this slightly dying tradition.
As the latest census has come out in Britain, and they found that Christianity is really on the decline, and paganism is on the rise. Surprise, surprise.
In the Camino in Spain, over half the people making this pilgrimage say they have no spiritual inclination, and yet they walk for 6 weeks
on this ancient pilgrimage route
to a cathedral with the bones of a saint at the end.
Yes,
and something calls people to make these journeys where pilgrims have trod before. To walk in the footsteps of ancestors is still resonant in the modern soul, the modern psyche.
Yeah,
I believe it's a very powerful activity.
And on your pilgrimaging, have you found that people are generally sympathetic to what you're doing when people, because to begin with they might think you're a vagrant, to use that term, the vagrancy laws, some guy's sleeping rough and walking with a staff. Are people generally sympathetic? Or
the staff is a key identifier. I would always say that. Carry out a wooden staff if you're making pilgrimage in Britain. And the magic comes in the word pilgrim.
Yeah.
If people say, "What are you doing? Are you okay? Do you need anything?" I'm a pilgrim on my way to Canterbury. Something changes. They see you in a different... well, will you come in? Do you want tea? Where are you staying? Do you need a bed? It's complete strangers out of the blue have been taking me in. For about a quarter of the nights have been with strangers.
And that's very heartening to hear, isn't it?
And they all are as surprised as I am. Well, of course, people don't do this anymore, do they? Well, they did yesterday and the day before. But,
and now you're doing it.
Yeah,
yes, yeah.
You're doing it, quite. Yeah. So there's something in the heart of people, and they say thank you afterwards. They say, "Oh, thank you so much for coming, for staying in my house and eating my food."
Yes.
That's quite all right.
Well, the lovely thing about that, I think, what strikes me is that they're giving you a gift of a warm place to sleep and some nice food and conversation and hospitality. Yes. But you're giving them a gift because it's a totally unexpected surprise event for them that they can tell their friends, when they're sitting in the pub the next day or talking to their family, saying, "Do you know what happened the other night? There was this chap and I talked to him," and it becomes a gift for them too.
Yes, I see that.
Yeah.
And trust is the ultimate gift, because that's the currency on which it's the bedrock of our whole society, of rational cooperative society. Without trust, we're at war with each other and ourselves.
Exactly.
So it's a currency that's out of fashion, but the more you spend it, the more you hoard it, and it builds up. I mean, even our money is a promissory note.
Yes.
I promise I'll pay you something.
Yes, it's not actually the stuff itself, although it's taken for it on trust. Yes.
Yeah. So trust is crucial for the smooth running of everything we do. And I think pilgrimage, throwing yourselves into the arms of England, as it were, and allowing people to support you, seems to build up this chest of this hoard of trust.
This hoard of trust. And of course, you see that in, say, in the area of mental health, in terms of when people start to lose trust in themselves and their own judgment, trust in other people, the people they feel they can't trust, the people around them, trust the society they're living in, even trust their own bodies and so on.
Yes.
It's a downward spiral.
Absolutely.
And likewise, if you can start to reinforce trust, you get a virtuous circle, an upward spiral. Terribly important.
Terribly important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the values, I think, in spirituality. Spirituality for me is one of the sort of key foundation stones of it, is in opening to a trust in life, in the ultimate beneficence of life.
Yes.
That however awful it may seem, however dire and difficult and however much suffering there is, somehow one can find this trust in, however you want to put it, the goddess, God, life, the universe. And I've always experienced in myself, I don't know if that makes sense to you, but I've always experienced trust as a sort of balm. There's something very healing when you even using the words, if I'm meditating and I trust, I can feel myself relaxing as I even tell myself that. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So there are lots of comments, but the thing with I'll explain to you, the comments are so fabulous. The audience, the participants, I should say, are so wonderful that if you start reading the comments, you get diverted and you can't carry on. So just do trust in the fact that Will and I afterwards will refresh our mugs of tea and we'll come back and read all your comments. So even if we're not noticing them now, we will come back to them. So do keep contributing. Because I wanted to ask you about water. You talked at the beginning about the importance of water, the fact that people, you feel, were walking to Canterbury because it was this important water source. One of the reasons why Glastonbury is so powerful is because of the Chalice Well, which always seems like the heart of Glastonbury to me. How have you approached water in your pilgrimage this time?
Well, I began in Southampton.
Yeah.
And there's another lost holy well in an armpit of woodland.
Yeah.
It's a 13th century Franciscan built beehive structure. And the city of Southampton seems to want it to not be there because it's surrounded by fencing. There's dead cats and needles, and it's just out of the way. You can't really get to it. There's no signs, no paths. You have to climb over fences to get in. Yeah. But I got it.
You did?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the beginning. And it's called the Coal Well. It was the first municipally owned water supply anywhere in England, flowing to feed fresh water to the whole of the city of Southampton.
Wow.
So I gathered a flask of this water, and I've been dripping it in every river, lake, well, and spring on the route to Canterbury to try and re-cleanse and reopen this pathway, this ancient route, pilgrimage path, Camino, to Canterbury. Because for some reason it's, there's something blocking the spring has been capped. There's a stone on pilgrimage. It's, that Tudor taboo, that heavy.
It was made illegal. And it became taboo, as you said.
The wrong religion, it was Catholic. Yeah. So when people became priests in the Church of England, they had to swear against Romish practices. Right. Of which pilgrimage was notoriously one. Okay. Yeah. So it's this, the infrastructure of England is somehow still coded against pilgrimage. Right. So we need to wash that clean. And obviously I can't smash it with a great sword. Yes. I haven't, but I can help drip water into it. Okay. So I've taken Southampton water all along the way to Canterbury, and I've given that to the Well of St Thomas in Canterbury. Okay. Which is still there underneath the cloisters. You can get to it. You can pump it out. Oh right. We have it here. And you've got it there. Yeah, a little bit. And now I'm taking this back to Southampton to complete the circuitry. How lovely. So you're performing a magical act, really, of working with the element of water and linking these places in a line
along the old way.
Along the old way, and every day I pass, there's so many streams and springs and lakes and ponds, and I have to listen, and they all seem to say, give us a splash, Will.
Yeah.
We'll have a bit too.
Yeah.
It's like, blooming heck, lads.
Yeah.
How it goes, I'm running a bit low actually, but
Yeah.
I trust I will reach Southampton with some more to spare.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the other magical thing that you're doing, as well as that, is you're singing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, yes.
Yeah. And you have a whole treasure chest of old songs, folk songs, that connect us back to the past, and which you're bringing back into life and singing into life. And there's this beautiful connection between singing and pilgrimage, isn't there?
Yes, there is. I mean, one of the key technologies of pilgrimage is the gift, which went out of fashion because of the thing, the pardoner's tale, and the sort of perceived avarice of the church trying to get money off everyone.
Yes,
So the gift became, we cut that out a little bit when we retell the story. But reciprocity, balance, is one of the great ancient laws, obviously. So if you want to receive a blessing from a place, you've got to give it something in return. And songs are the lightest of all portable gifts. They rarely run out, and the more you give them away, the more closely you hold them forever.
Yes.
So song is the gift that I choose to give, and you can just offer them to every great tree, every owl or dormouse, or churches are also incredible places to sing. Really, really
soak it up.
They've been. I think that's what they're for. Again,
they've been made for singing at one level.
Yes, architecturally, yes.
Yeah.
So song is my constant companion, and again, if you want to make friends and find places to stay, then you can pay for your supper with a song.
Singing for supper. Yes.
It works. It's a functional mode of getting about.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. Well, should we go into a meditation to a sacred spring? And when we get there, will you sing us a song to help us deepen our meditation, and for it to be part of our gift to the water, to the waters? Yeah, should we do that? Well, if you'd like to join us, let's do a meditation now. Let's if you feel like closing your eyes, by all means do so, or keep them open, whichever you like. But just to begin with, just becoming aware of being seated in front of your screen, here and now, fully present, and then just allowing a sense of that screen and of where you're sitting, physical circumstances, just to gently fade from consciousness as you have a sense of being in the sacred grove, being in this clearing, the earth beneath you, the trees around you, and the sky above you. And you feel how the earth grounds you and helps you to settle. And taking in a big deep breath, as you breathe out, you allow yourself to become just closer to the earth, feeling grounded and settled with the richness and all the life of the earth beneath you. Sensing all the creatures in the earth, all the stones and minerals, the soil and the water, and the roots of the trees traveling down into the earth, all part of one community of life. This great community of the roots, of the mycelium, of all the fungi, all connected together, all one community of the forest. And you sense these trees as wonderful beings, our brothers and sisters, bringing us protection and blessing. Their trunks soaring up into the air, and their branches, many of them now bare in the winter, above us. And you become aware of the sky. And you breathe in the energy of the sky. And the energy of the sky meets the energy of the earth within the center of your being. And you open your inner eyes in the sacred grove now. And you see there's a little path leading out that you just know goes to a sacred spring nearby. And if it feels right for you, you just begin to follow this path out of the grove, through the trees, hearing the scurrying of a fox, the hoot of an owl, carrying on walking until you find yourself coming to a sacred spring. This wonderful source of water, hidden and protected by the forest. And there it is. And you approach the spring, tuning in to the spirit of the spring, the guardian of the spring. And you might like to touch the earth, the ground, with your hand to ask for the blessings of this place. And then you hear a song offered to the spring.
Water flows, life is given, rises from earth, falls from heaven. Water flowing, so we sing. Bless the holy spring.
And you sense your gift of blessing flowing to the spring. And in return, you scoop some of the water into the palm of your hand and drink from your palm, feeling the cool, healing water flowing into your body. And then the gift of song comes again a second time.
Water flows, life is given, rises from earth, falls from heaven. Water flowing, so we sing. Bless the holy spring.
And you dip your hand into the water again. And this time, scooping a little water up, you lave your brow, you put the water on your brow, gently stroking your brow with this holy water. And you feel the subtle energy of this water flowing through your being.
Water flows, life is given, rises from earth, falls from heaven. Water flowing, so we sing. Bless the holy spring.
And you bend down and you find you have a beautiful little flask in your hand. And you fill this little flask from the spring. You place the cap on the flask and pop it back into your pocket or around your neck. You give thanks to the spirit of the spring. And you take your leave, knowing that you can return to this place at any time. And you follow the path back to the sacred grove. You sense the animals and the birds of the forest close. You come into the clearing of the sacred grove. You find your place. And you become aware of this place as a place not only of peace and of solace and of healing, but also as a place of community. You might sense your fellow travelers within this circle now. You might sense the spirits of the ancestors, of our loved ones, of the animals. And you imagine placing now your hands, the palms of your hands, on the earth. May this earth be blessed. May the land be blessed. May all of life be blessed. And then raising your hands to your heart, you gradually become aware of your physical body as your awareness of being in the sacred grove begins to fade. And as your awareness of being in the sacred grove fades, your awareness of being seated in front of your screen, fully present, here and now, grows stronger and stronger until finally you open your eyes. Thank you, Will, so much.
Thank you, Philip.
No, it was a pleasure. That was just.
May I offer you
some water.
water from Canterbury?
Water from Canterbury.
The words and the matter.
Oh, this is lovely. Thank you. I'm blessed by water from Canterbury now. How lovely. We were going to talk, before we began, we were going to talk about being and doing, and how pilgrimage is doing, but doing in a very special way. We tend to counterpose being and doing together, but that all sounds very abstract now, doesn't it? But there's just maybe just one word we can finish with, which is this. What I love about pilgrimage, I don't know if you'd agree, is that it's a way of embodying our spiritual life. It's not just meditating or praying or thinking about spiritual ideas. It's about actually engaging with the land and with the people we meet on the way. With us, our spiritual life and our physical life aren't two different things.
I like to call it the song, S-O-N-G. You're meeting you with yourself. You're meeting your body, your mind, yourself.
Yes.
In ways that you put your back and your legs and your breath, and then there's others. The community of people,
right.
And nature at the end.
Yeah.
All the animals, the trees, the elements.
Yes.
They're all alive. We're a tiny bit of this world.
Yes.
And then G, goodness or God or whatever,
or goddess,
or goddess, or whatever that means to you. But there's 4 layers of engagement going outwards to the ever greater. So
that's a nice acronym. The psychologists love acronyms. Yeah. It's full of psychologists now. It's full of acronyms.
And backwards, it's gnos, as in wisdom.
Oh.
God, nature, other self.
Going the other way. Yeah. Gosh, there's such a lot in there. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yes. So we're left with that very rich acronym, song and gnos. Thank you so much, Will. Thank you, everybody. We're going to read your comments over tea. And I'll put a link to Will's book in here as well. That's fantastic. And the words of your song, let's put them on the blog that goes with this.
Super.
Let's put your words. Okay, so many blessings, lots of love, everybody, and see you next Monday. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.